Ethan Carter and I were childhood sweethearts, practically raised together. Just as we were about to announce our engagement, he became infatuated with someone new. He pursued her with a very public, all-consuming passion, making sure everyone knew about his new obsession. When his friends teased him, asking, "What about your childhood sweetheart of over 10 years?" he just laughed and said, "The grass is always greener on the other side." I smiled too, but for a different reason. This time, I wouldn't be upset. I wouldn't try to win him back. I wouldn't wait around anymore. I accepted the marriage arrangement my family had proposed. In just 2 weeks, I would become another man's wife. I stood frozen outside the private karaoke room, listening to the lively conversation inside. "Ethan, aren't you practically engaged to Chloe Bennett? Isn't it inappropriate to chase someone else so openly now?" "Yeah, everyone knows Chloe's crazy about you, always following you around. If you dump her now, she'll be devastated. Chloe's sweet and she loves you. Why not just marry the nice, devoted girl?" This love at first sight thing seems unreliable. Then Ethan's voice cut through, cool and detached. "She's too sweet, that's the problem. A complete yes woman. Where's the challenge in that? She's like a little sister. As a girlfriend." He scoffed. "Boring." A friend chuckled. "Then why were you two planning to get engaged?" "Don't remind me," Ethan said, clear annoyance in his tone. "I spoiled her growing up. If I call off the engagement, she'll just cry and make a scene. It's tiresome." He didn't finish, but someone else did. "Annoying, you mean?" Ethan didn't correct them. "No wonder you fell for someone like Sophia Bennett, sexy, mature, sophisticated. Chloe seems like a kid next to her." Ethan's reply was simple and damning, "Exactly." The room erupted in knowing laughter. Ethan's included. My hand fell from the dew. Our handle. I couldn't bring myself to push it open. Today was my birthday. It was also the day we had agreed to finalize our wedding date. But my childhood sweetheart hadn't just fallen for someone else, he was publicly mocking me to his friends. Walking in now would be nothing but self-inflicted humiliation. Yet, a stubborn part of me needed to hear it from him directly. I needed answers. After all these years, had he ever truly loved me? If not, why the whispered sweet nothings that felt like promises? Why the lingering glances that felt like love? Why the held hands, the kisses? Why did he immediately break things off with any other girl the moment I voiced my displeasure, always telling me, "You're the most important one"? Why? I took a sharp, deep breath and shoved the door open. The festive atmosphere died instantly. All eyes turned to me, expressions ranging from pity to curiosity. Ethan frowned, his voice low. "What are you doing here?" All pride gone, I said the words I knew sounded pathetic. "I came to take you home. To decide our wedding date." Ethan's expression shifted instantly. "Sophia, you're here." He wasn't talking to me. I turned stiffly. There stood Sophia Bennett, stunning in a fiery red slip dress, exuding a bold, captivating confidence. She glanced at me, a smirk playing on her lips. "Oh, Chloe, you're here too? Had I known, I could have given you a ride. Saved you the cab fare." Sophia was technically my stepsister. Her father had married my mother after his divorce. She'd lived abroad with her mother for years, rarely returning, until a recent work transfer brought her back to stay. Then, Ethan saw her. And it was love at first sight. "This party is for Sophia. She wasn't supposed to crash it," Ethan stated flatly. "I'll have someone take her home." His dismissive tone said it all, but a foolish part of me still clung to hope. "Ethan, are you serious?" I stared into his eyes, searchy. For the boy I once knew. But he wasn't looking at me. His gaze was fixed solely on the dazzling Sophia. "I called you a car. Go home. Consider the engagement, me just playing along with your little game. Now, the game is over. Our engagement is cancelled." I didn't go home. I found myself by the riverfront, staring into the dark, swirling water, my mind numb. Ethan and I had history. After my mother remarried into the wealthy Bennett family, I never quite fit in. I was often overlooked, often lonely. Ethan had been my protector. He stood up for me, included me in his adventures, made me feel seen and valued. I'd never forget him confronting a group of bullies, declaring, "Chloe is under my protection. Anyone who messes with her, messes with me." Falling in love with him felt as natural as breathing. I truly believed I held the most special place in his heart. I never imagined a bond built over more than a decade could be shattered so completely by a newcomer. My phone buzzed incessantly. An anonymous number spammed me with photos. Ethan and Sophia chatting intimately in the karaoke room, playing drinking games arm in arm, her laughing as she fell into his embrace. Then, a video filled with cheers and applause. Ethan, down on one knee, holding out a bouquet of roses, asking Sophia to be his girlfriend. Her delighted yes felt like a physical blow. The perfect couple. A final text arrived, take a hint. You can't compete with Sophia. He's serious about her. Stop making a fool of yourself. I turned off my phone, closing my eyes, trying to block it all out. The silence lasted mere seconds before another buzz. My mother. Chloe, honey, she began, her voice gentle. She'd clearly heard the news. Perhaps you should consider Noah Walker. The arranged marriage. He's young, capable, quite handsome. And most importantly, he seems to genuinely like you. It wouldn't be a bad match for you. I watched the dark water churn, my heart feeling like it was being twisted into knots. Logically, I knew I should let go now, or I'd truly become the pathetic, clingy ex in everyone's eyes. But emotionally, cutting that cord felt impossible. Annoying. His word echoed in my mind, sharp and cruel. I took a deep, shuddering breath. Decision made. If he didn't love me anymore, then I would stop loving him, too. Okay, I whispered into the phone. I'll accept the marriage. The relief in my mother's voice was palpable. She immediately launched into praises of Noah Walker and suggested I fly to Los Angeles soon to meet him. If things went well, we could set the date. No need for a meeting, I said, my voice firmer now. She didn't argue. Shall we set the wedding for 2 weeks from today, then? Yes. Back at the mansion I shared with Ethan, sleep was impossible. Restless, I began to pack. His family's home was directly opposite the Bennett estate. Feeling increasingly like an outsider after my mother had her new child with Richard Bennett, Ethan had rescued me, moving me in with him 5 years ago. He had been my anchor. Now, every room was a minefield of memories. If I was leaving, I was taking every trace of myself, of us, with me. I wanted a clean break. I started in the study. This was where he'd patiently tutored me through difficult subjects, where we'd spent countless rainy afternoons reading side by side, where we'd built elaborate blanket forts as teenagers. I gathered textbooks filled with our marginal notes, old homework assignments with his corrections in red pen, the sentimental mixtapes we'd made for each other, everything. A noise from the living room broke my concentration. I stepped out to find Ethan and Sophia locked in a passionate embrace by the front door. Seeing me, Ethan broke away, irritation flashing across his face. He pulled Sophia closer, shielding her. What are you doing up? Though. Out of them being together, here, in my space, made my stomach churn. If you want to get a room, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. Don't do it here. His face darkened. The disgust and impatience in his eyes were like physical blows. Chloe, get over yourself. This is my house. Who I bring home is none of your business. I pressed my lips together, the truth a bitter pill. Right. I'd forgotten my place. I'd only ever been able to make demands because he allowed it. That permission had been officially revoked. I turned without another word, walked back into the study, and slammed the door shut, the sound echoing my shattered heart. I kept packing. A short while later, I heard the front door close. Sophia was gone. As I carried a box towards the basement game room, I ran into Ethan on the stairs. His face was like a thundercloud. Happy now? You drove her away. You always have to win, don't you? What are you talking about? What did I do? This, he exploded, gesturing wildly at me. This constant need for drama. You're always acting out, but you never own up to it. You expect me to read your mind and cater to your every whim. It's utterly exhausting. The realization hit me with the force of a physical blow. So, that's what you really think of me. All those times I simply wanted his attention, his time, his love. He saw it as me being difficult, demanding, unreasonable, annoying. Don't think this little midnight packing stunt changes anything, he said, his voice cold and final. I'm not breaking up with Sophia, no matter what manipulative games you play. He brushed past me, stomped up the stairs, and slammed his bedroom door so hard the walls shook. I stood alone on the staircase for a long, long time. Finally, a single, bitter laugh escaped my lips. So, that's all I ever was to him. A burden. A chore. A dramatic scene. I packed all through the night. By the time dawn broke, I had boxed up every single item that belonged to me, down to the last decorative trinket in the living room. The mansion looked instantly emptier, hollowed out. 5 years of my life, neatly packed away. My gaze fell on the large sectional sofa and the shelves above the TV. They used to be buried under a mountain of stuffed animals we'd won together at carnivals and arcades, the coziest, most lived-in spots in the entire sterile house. My favorite places to lounge. Now, they were just bare, expensive furniture. Click. The bedroom door opened upstairs. Ethan came down, dressed for the day. I stood in the center of the vast living room, a single oversized duffel bag at my feet. He walked straight past me. No glance. No good morning. No, where are you going? Nothing. He simply walked out the front door. Strangely, I didn't feel sad. I just felt numb. Hollow. Perhaps I had simply run out of tears. I called the first junk dealer I found online. I sold what I could and told them to trash the rest. Within 30 minutes, it was all gone. All that remained was one small, sleek suitcase. It held my passport, a few changes of clothes, my laptop, my essential toiletries, and a velvet box containing all the expensive jewelry Ethan had ever given me. I would keep my personal essentials. The gifts. I would have my mother return them. I wanted no souvenirs from this war. The Bennett family mansion was just across the street. My mother was already in the kitchen. To my surprise, she was making pancakes, a rare occurrence. Sophia prefers Western breakfasts, she explained, looking slightly guilty, trying to be fair. Chloe, have you eaten? I can whip you up some scrambled eggs. She had always prioritized her new, perfect family. I had stopped expecting anything else years ago. No, it's fine. I'm heading out soon. I handed her the velvet box. Can you make sure Ethan gets this when you have a moment? Where are you going? She asked, her voice tight with a familiar, wary concern. You're not going to do anything foolish, are you? Over a boy? I managed a thin, tired smile. No, Mom. I'm not going to do anything drastic. I just need to get out of this city for a few days. Clear my head. Okay. Good. Her relief was evident. Then, she brightened. You know, Chloe, why don't you go visit Noah Walker in Los Angeles? You're getting married so soon. It would be a perfect chance to break the ice. Feeling utterly untethered, I gave a non-committal shrug. Yeah, maybe. I'll think about it. As I headed for the front door, I almost collided with Sophia. She eyed my single suitcase, a mocking smile spreading across her perfectly made-up face. Ah, running away from home, little sister? How very dramatic. I didn't bother to reply. I just kept walking. How pathetic, her voice sang out after me. I paused, my hand on the cool metal of the gate. I wanted to spin around and scream that I wasn't running away, I was moving the hell on. That this wasn't some ploy for attention. That I was done. But what was the point? They'd just label it as another one of my scenes. Nobody would believe me. I took a deep, steadying breath of the cool morning air and walked out. At the airport, just before I was about to board my flight to nowhere in particular, a text notification popped up. It was from Sophia. A screenshot of her text conversation with Ethan. Sophia, babe, just saw Chloe leaving with a suitcase. Is she seriously running away? That seems a bit much. Shouldn't you call her or something? She might do something stupid. Ethan, ignore her. It's just another one of her attention-seeking games. The more you react, the worse she gets. Sophia, I know, but still, what if she's actually in trouble? Ethan, then she brought it on herself. Not my problem. I read the cold, cruel words on the bright screen. And I felt nothing. Just a final, quiet click inside my chest, like a door firmly closing. I didn't just block the number. I opened my contacts, selected Sophia, Ethan, and every single one of his friends, and pressed delete. Then I turned my phone to airplane mode and walked onto the plane, leaving my old life behind. I traveled for 2 days, visiting old high school friends in another city. For the first time in years, I didn't constantly check my phone. I laughed freely, talked about things completely unrelated to Ethan, and remembered what it felt like to be just Chloe, not just an extension of him. It wasn't until I was walking back to my hotel, feeling lighter than I had in months, that I finally checked my messages. Missed calls from an unknown number. Then, a text that made my breath catch. It's Noah Walker. I'm waiting outside your hotel. My heart jumped. Noah Walker? Here? We'd met exactly once, years ago at a formal charity gala. My memory was of a strikingly handsome but distant man, the successful, seemingly untouchable heir to a vast fortune. The last person I expected to see waiting for me. I hurried my steps, guilt pricking at me for making him wait. Distracted, my heel caught on a pavement crack. I braced for the fall. It never came. Strong, steady hands caught my elbows, keeping me upright. Careful there. His voice was deeper than I remembered, a low, resonant baritone that seemed to vibrate right through me. Noah Walker. My cheeks flushed with a heat that had nothing to do with embarrassment. I quickly righted myself, pulling away slightly. Thank you. I'm so sorry, I wasn't watching where I was. Are you alright? He interrupted, his dark eyes scanning my face with an intensity one found both unsettling and captivating. I'm fine. Just clumsy. I tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, flustered. And I'm so sorry about the wait. I wasn't checking my phone. I'm the one who should apologize for the ambush, he said, hi. Tone surprisingly gracious. He gestured subtly towards the hotel entrance. But since I'm here, would you allow me to buy you dinner? I know a place nearby. Dinner. Right. Of course. Yes, I said, a genuine smile touching my lips for the first time that day. I'd like that. I truly thought it was just dinner. I was wrong. The restaurant he took me to was empty save for the staff. The ceiling was a breathtaking cascade of twinkling lights, mimicking a starry night sky, and the floor was a grand sea of pale blush roses. It was the secret, hopelessly romantic proposal fantasy I'd once confessed to a friend online, brought to life. My feet rooted to the spot. Noah, what is this? He didn't answer with words. He simply took my hand and led me to the center of the flower sea. Then, he got down on one knee. My hand flew to my mouth, a gasp catching in my throat. Chloe Bennett, he said, his gaze holding mine with a gravity that stole the air from my lungs. I know this is unconventional, but I don't believe in half measures. Will you marry me? He opened a small, black velvet box. The diamond inside wasn't just large, it was a masterpiece of light and precision, catching the artificial starlight and scattering it into 1,000 rainbow sparks. I was supposed to say yes. It was the arrangement. But staring into his serious, handsome face, surrounded by a scene plucked straight from my most private dreams, the word felt different. It felt real. Yes, I whispered, the sound barely audible but filled with a newfound certainty. He slid the cool, heavy band onto my finger. It felt significant. Real. He stood, and for a moment, the air crackled with tension. I thought he might kiss me. His gaze dropped to my lips, and my heart hammered against my ribs. But he restrained himself, simply looking down at me, a faint, almost imperceptible softening around his intense eyes. Thank you, Chloe, he said, his voice quiet, sincere. Tioch. The formality of it broke the spell slightly. I let out a shaky, relieved laugh, holding up my hand to admire the ring. I should be thanking you. This is a hell of a way to start a marriage. A slight, genuine smile finally touched his lips, transforming his entire face. It's only the beginning. The week following the proposal passed in a strange, new rhythm. Noah texted me. Not incessantly, but consistently. A good morning, hope you sleep well, sent just as he landed in Tokyo for a meeting. A picture of a stunning sunset from his high-rise office in Singapore. I started texting back. A photo of my colorful breakfast. A funny anecdote from my travels. It felt less like a cold business transaction and more like a deliberate, long-distance courtship. When my trip ended, I flew back to New York with a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in years. I walked into my office and handed in my resignation. In 1 week, I would become Chloe Walker. It was time to leave this city and all its ghosts behind. The resignation process would take a few days. I couldn't bear the thought of the empty mansion, its silence screaming of betrayal, so I checked into a sleek, anonymous hotel. The day after I returned, my mother called. Her voice was cautious, tiptoeing. Chloe. I thought you should know. Ethan and Sophia are having their engagement party tonight. At the Carter estate. I was stirring honey into my tea. I didn't even pause. Okay. Your father, he thinks it would be good for family appearances if you showed your face. But if it's too hard, honey, no one would blame you. I'll go, I said, my voice calm, decisive. I looked down at the magnificent diamond sparkling on my finger. It felt like armor. I'll be there. I arrived fashionably late. The Carter mansion was dripping with opulent flowers and the buzz of wealthy guests. I saw them immediately, Ethan and Sophia, holding court under a grand floral arch, the picture of a perfect, powerful couple. I walked straight over, handed a generic, elegantly wrapped candle to a passing server, and offered a bland, social smile. Congratulations, you too. Wishing you all the best. I turned to melt back into the crowd. Chloe. Ethan's voice was tight, strained, as he caught up to me in a few quick strides. What is this? What are you trying to prove by being here? I almost laughed. Prove? I'm just being polite, Ethan. It's what adults do at family functions. His eyes narrowed, searching my face for the hurt, the anger, the desperation he was so accustomed to. He found none. It seemed to unsettle him. Stop this. Just stop. This act isn't fooling anyone. Sophia glided over then, looping her arm possessively through Ethan's. Her eyes, sharp and assessing, immediately zeroed in on my left hand. Her perfectly sculpted eyebrows shot up in feigned surprise. "My God, Chloe," she said, her voice a little too loud, successfully drawing the attention of nearby guests. "Is that a rock on your finger? It's enormous. It must have cost a fortune." Her smile was all saccharine poison. "It's so brave of you to wear something like that out in public." The implication hung heavy in the air. "It's so obviously fake." Ethan's gaze dropped to my hand, and his face hardened with disbelief and something that looked strangely like anger. "For Christ's sake, Chloe. Is this your idea of revenge? Buying some cheap cubic zirconia to make a scene? It's pathetic." I felt the weight of the party's eyes on me, the silent judgments, the smirks. The old me would have crumpled, mortified. The new me felt only a profound, bone-deep weariness with their predictable drama. I deliberately held my hand up, letting the brilliant chandelier light blaze through the perfectly cut stone, making it sparkle with undeniable fire. "My fiancé has excellent taste," I said, my voice clear and steady, carrying just enough to be heard by the eavesdroppers. "It's real. Just like our engagement." "Your what?" Ethan's voice was a low, disbelieving growl. "What fiancé? What lies are you telling now?" "I'm not lying, Ethan. My wedding is in 1 week. I'll make sure you get an invitation." I turned and walked away, leaving them standing in a bubble of stunned silence, the weight of my words and the truth of my diamond hanging between us. I had zero desire to stay at the party any longer, but on my way out, my mother and stepfather intercepted me near the door. My mother's eyes were pleading. "Just stay for the cake cutting, Chloe. For family appearances." I sighed, defeated by social obligation. "Fine. 30 minutes. That's it." I escaped to the one place I knew would offer a moment's respite, Ethan's old study on the 2nd floor. I just needed to breathe, away from the suffocating perfection of it all. I hadn't been there 5 minutes when the door opened without a knock. "Hiding in our old spot?" Sophia's voice was a venomous purr as she stepped inside, closing the door behind her. How very nostalgic. I didn't bother to turn around from the window I was staring out of. "What do you want, Sophia?" "I want you to understand that your little performance downstairs changes nothing." She came to stand directly in front of me, her eyes glittering with malicious triumph. "Ethan is mine. He always has been." I finally looked at her, utterly bored. "Congratulations. You can have him. I'm not standing in your way." My sheer indifference seemed to infuriate her more than any argument could. "You know, he only ever paid attention to you because I asked him to." A smug, cruel smile twisted her lips. "Before I left for Europe, I told him to keep an eye on you. To pity the poor little stepsister who didn't fit in. Everything he ever did for you, every bit of protection, was because of me." The revelation should have felt like a knife to the heart. Instead, it felt like the final, missing puzzle piece clicking into place, explaining a picture I no longer had any interest in looking at. "Great. Thanks for the charity," I said flatly, turning back to the window. "Now, if you're quite finished?" I saw the raw fury flash in her eyes. Hearing the distinct sound of Ethan's footsteps approaching in the hall, her expression shifted in an instant from gloating to one of theatrical, wide-eyed fear. "Chloe, please, don't," she cried out, and then threw herself backwards onto the floor with a dramatic thud, making sure her temple snapped sharply against the solid leg of the heavy oak desk. The door burst open. Ethan stood frozen in the doorway, his face a mask of horror. He rushed to Sophia, who was now clutching her head, fake tears already streaming down her cheeks. "Chloe," he roared, cradling her, his voice thick with fury. "What the hell is wrong with you? You pushed her? How could you be so vicious?" I stood there, cold and still, my arms crossed. "I didn't touch her. I saw it with my own eyes," he snarled, his gaze burning with pure hatred as it landed on me. "God, I knew you were selfish and spoiled, but this is malicious. You'd physically hurt someone just to get back at me?" "Ethan, it's okay," Sophia whimpered, clinging to his jacket, playing the victim perfectly. "I'm sure she didn't mean it. She's just upset about our engagement, and her own unfortunate situation." She let her gaze drift meaningfully, pathetically, towards my ring finger. The small crowd that had gathered at the door followed her look. The whispers started immediately, sharp and judgmental. "Fake ring, lying about a fiancé, so desperate she's turned violent." I felt the heat of their collective judgment, my cheeks burning under their scrutiny. I was trapped in a nightmare of their careful construction. She would do no such thing. The voice cut through the murmurs like a blade. Calm. Authoritative. Unmistakable. Noah Walker stood in the doorway. Dressed in an impeccably tailored black suit that probably cost more than most of the cars parked outside, he exuded a natural, effortless power that instantly silenced the room. His gaze swept over the pathetic scene, dismissing everyone, until it landed solely on me. "Because Chloe," he stated, walking toward me with a predator's quiet grace, "is mine." He stopped beside me, his presence a solid, unbreachable wall between me and their malice. "And she has no need for, or interest in, anyone else's leftovers." He didn't wait for a reply, didn't even glance at Ethan or the sobbing Sophia. He simply offered me his arm. I took it, my fingers trembling only slightly as they settled against the fine wool of his sleeve, and let him lead me out of the room, past the stunned faces of Ethan, Sophia, and every single person who had ever doubted me. For the first time all night, I could breathe freely. The ceremony was everything I had stopped daring to dream of. As I walked down the aisle on my stepfather's arm, my eyes were locked on Noah's. The look he gave me, a mixture of awe, possessiveness, and something profoundly tender, erased any lingering trace of nervousness. When I placed my hand in his, it felt like coming home. The reception was a lavish affair, but the only thing that felt real was Noah's hand on the small of my back, his quiet words murmured just for me. We moved through the crowds, a united front, accepting congratulations. I saw Ethan watching us from a corner, a drink in his hand, his expression unreadable. I felt nothing but a distant pity. Later, as I danced with Noah, my head resting against his shoulder, he whispered, "I meant what I said. I love you, Chloe. This isn't just an arrangement for me." I leaned back to look at him, the lights from the chandelier catching in his dark eyes. "I know," I said, and it was the truth. "And I'm falling for you, Noah. Truly." The smile he gave me then was brighter than any diamond. Epilogue 6 months later, I stood in our Los Angeles home, staring at the positive pregnancy test in my hand. A sense of surreal joy washed over me. The life I had now, the love, the security, the sheer, simple happiness, still felt like a beautiful dream sometimes. The front door opened and closed. "Chloe?" Noah's voice called out. I turned as he entered the room, his tie loosened after a long day. I simply held up the test. He froze, his eyes widening. For a moment, he was utterly still. Then he crossed the room in 3 long strides and pulled me into a crushing embrace. I could feel the frantic, joyful beat of his heart against my cheek. "Are you?" he breathed, his voice thick with emotion. I nodded, tears of happiness welling in my eyes. "I am." He held me tighter, his lips against my hair. "I love you, Chloe," he whispered, the words filled with more emotion than I had ever heard. "So much." I wrapped my arms around him, holding on to this wonderful, solid reality. "I love you too, Noah." And I did, with every fiber of my being. As for Ethan, I heard through the grapevine that his on-again, off-again engagement with Sophia finally ended for good in a spectacular, messy fallout. I heard he briefly dated a girl who supposedly resembled me. I heard he was having a hard time moving on. But honestly, I had long stopped listening. He was a chapter from a book I had happily closed, a ghost from a past that no longer held any power over me. My present, and my future, were standing right here, holding me in his arms. And that was all that mattered. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments. Feel free to share your perspectives, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting stories. See you next time.